right, so we here for episode 7 of Talk That Talk with Fallon and DLab. Today we're going to hit on some interesting topics, things that have been going on, in sports, in politics, and, just especially just with the dynamic of just dealing with the pandemic, still trying to evolve and just live through it right now, which has been brutal. But we're going to call this episode Pros and Foes, because you got all these professional athletes trying to take a stance on social justice issues and other facets. And then you got the foes. You got COVID-19 being an enemy for them right now. You got politicians being an enemy. And it's just a lot of bad or negative energy just going around in sports and politics. So we're going to hit on that and just talk about those topics today. So let's go ahead and get it going, DLab. So the first topic I want to hit on is the WNBA and Kelly Loeffler. We've talked about her in previous episodes. The most recent episode we hit on her was on episode 5 when we had Renee Montgomery on here, a player for the Atlanta Dream. And she actually talked about what Kelly Loeffler's comments about Black Lives Matter, the BLM movement meant, and how she was against the WNBA taking a stance on such type of social justice issues. Having BLM or Black Lives Matter emblazoned on jerseys on the court. She's totally against it. We know she's a staunch conservative. And the WNBA players and Dream players as well took a huge stance this week. And they wore shirts that said Warnock, Raphael Warnock, who is running for Senate against Kelly Loeffler in the upcoming election, November 3rd.
Crazy.
So when you saw it on social media, you saw it on Instagram, you saw it on Twitter, you saw it on any type of media outlets. These players, Sue Bird, the likes, major superstars in the league, wearing the shirts with a shirt with Warnock on it, basically giving them his endorsement. So that was critical and huge. We know the WNBA is known to really take a stance with left issues or take a stance with left organizations, and Kelly Loeffler is very far right, very conservative. So that was just an interesting stance this week, and I thought pretty powerful just to see it on all of my social media.
Yep, for sure. And it's interesting though, for a WNBA owner to have the stance that she has, and then for people to put the person that's running against her on their chest kind of makes a huge statement. Basically saying that we don't want you in this league. We don't agree with what you're saying. We don't agree with your stance. And we want you to know it. And we're going to show you that, we have some power. And if you don't like what we're doing, get out of here. So big stance for them. Very proud of those ladies. And it'll be interesting to see how she responds, whether she responds verbally or if she just decides to move on and do something different.
Yeah, well, we already know she is taking this stance of just going hard against BLM because her constituents want to see that. She is a staunch Trump supporter. She said that from the get-go when she was appointed to fill that Senate seat back in December of 2019. So she's running in this special election. It's still a strong chance that she may not even be the Republican candidate that comes out of it. She has an opponent that she is running against, where they may split the vote. But, for Warnock to be a Democratic candidate, he is a senior pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church, the same church that Dr. Martin Luther King was a pastor of for many years. And it's an historic Black church around this country, around the world. So I just thought that was huge. We'll see how it helps him with the votes in November. But way to go for the WNBA to take a stance and say, Kelly Loeffler, we're not with you. We don't support you. And we really don't want you in our league. I thought that was just huge, big time.
Agree. Yeah. I agree. And every major event, whether it be a funeral or any major event that happens in the city of Atlanta that has anything to do with social justice, always comes back to Ebenezer Baptist Church at some point, which it should. So he's a very powerful voice in the community, in the state. So again, kudos to those ladies, and it'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward with Kelly, with Loeffler. But I think she's put her foot in her mouth for one last time. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. Well, another topic, I think it goes hand in hand with just this topic and the stance that the WNBA players took. But we have the November election coming up. We actually have the runoff election here in Georgia on Tuesday, August 11th. That's big. It's a little late to do mail-in voting. You should have mailed in your votes prior to now, because if it's not received by August the 11th as an absentee ballot, it will not be counted. If it's late, postmarked on the 11th, and they get it past that date, your vote will not count. So this election, this runoff on Tuesday, is very important for local elections around Georgia. And in other states, you just have to go to different websites or just to see in your jurisdiction if there are runoffs occurring and go vote. But this November 3rd election, with a pandemic going on, people are not trying to go to the polls because it's still so much fear.
Which I get.
Yeah.
Like, who wants to be around a large crowd of people? And I'm not sure what the rules are going to be. I'm sure it's by polling place, whether you're forced to wear mask or not forced to wear mask. But who wants to be standing in line? Let's just say, for whatever reason, the person in front of you and the person behind you don't want to wear masks, and they start coughing. Like, who wants to be in that situation? You know what I'm saying? It's just not a comfortable situation. And then your guy Trump, he's so against mail-in voting because he's just trying to figure out any way to win the election possible. And then I heard he sued Nevada over its recent decision to send absentee ballots to all voters. Like, what is he doing? Why is he always meddling and trying to control and show his power, and just like, isn't he running the country? Like, why are you always tweeting and suing people? And like, he's just always doing stuff. Like, concentrate on the task at hand, which is being president of the free world. Like, stop just harassing and bothering everybody. What's his deal?
Yeah, I really don't know. But the main thing is he always wants to be the center of attention.
No question.
This is critical because he believes that mail-in voting is going to cause a lot of fraudulent voting, which he's not altogether wrong.
But I don't think that's what he believes, though.
He's bringing attention to it. But the main thing that the Democratic Party is concerned about is the fact that USPS, our United States Postal Service, they're not doing a good job of either mailing absentee ballots out to constituents or even receiving them and getting them to the electorals or the elections in time so they can be counted. And that's what's going to be critical, because we know with this pandemic, November 3rd is going to be a huge election. It's the presidential election, national elections for Senate, like we just spoke with Kelly Loeffler, Pastor Warnock, and other candidates. And it's going to be critical that a lot of people show up and vote. And I think they will this election. But if we don't get this in hand, it's going to be a hot mess with mail-in voting.
Conspiracy theorists feel like Trump has done something to USPS, or I guess someone in his cabinet or someone in his administration has passed a message on the USPS to slow that process down. Now, whether it's true or not true, I have absolutely no idea. I'm not in the meetings. I don't know. But I do feel like, and I've mailed some things off, that the USPS is going much slower than it has before. They are.
And you're right. The current Postmaster General, his name is Louis DeJoy. He's one of Trump's guys. And he has cut down his budget significantly. He did even recently reassign 23 executives within the Postal Service to different branches so he can have control and determine how things will be situated and how things will be mailed out. So it's been a slow process.
And he's probably blaming on COVID. Yeah.
Yes.
So you got a built-in excuse on why you don't hire enough people. Yeah.
He's trying to say budget issues. They're losing way too much money. So they probably had to lay people off. So it's been a lot of turmoil, but he's using that excuse. And he has Trump backing him. And the Dems are like, no, we want the Inspector General to investigate this guy to see why it was such a slow process, especially when we saw mail-in ballots or absentee ballots for the last election we had here in Georgia. And then previously back in 2018, we had the whole controversy with Stacey Abrams and then absentee ballots not being counted.
That was a huge deal with Stacey Abrams. And I feel like she got cheated. And I don't know if I'm being biased or not, but I feel like she got cheated.
Oh, no. I mean, when you have Brian Kemp, who was the head of the Secretary of State, who is in charge of voting, and then he's the same one who's controlling these elections, these polling stations, and then all of a sudden he comes out with the win. It's plenty of questions about that. And I think she had every right to question a recount and to determine if he actually won.
Your man Trump said multiple times when he did that string of press conferences that he had to go down there and help Kemp win. He literally said that out of his own mouth, which is crazy to me. Like, What are you going down and helping people win for? And why are you telling people that? You know what I'm saying? So they're obviously in cahoots. And then he tried to act like he was upset with him because he was one of the first people to open back up. But we all know that was part of their master plan. He told Kemp to open back up early because he wanted the rest of the country to open back up. And then look at the situation that we're in now because of these two.
Right. But just like reading the article in the Washington Post, they think the main issues for mail-in ballots or absentee ballots, they go hand in hand, is people will not receive them in the mail after they request them. Ballots sent out do not make it back to the election officials to be counted. And then third, some ballots are either rejected because they're not postmarked, or they're postmarked after the election. They arrive without a signature, improperly filled out, or just didn't match voting records. So it's like so important for constituents, anybody who's a registered voter. First of all, you have time to register to vote for that election. Do it now. We talked about that episode 4 with rockthevote.org. You can go to that website to see where you need to register in your state. And then if you live in Georgia and you want to see how you can fill out an application for an absentee ballot, you just need to go to georgia.gov and you can fill it out, submit it, fax it, scan it, email it, whatever you need to do to make sure your application gets in and you get your absentee ballot. Because this is going to be a huge election. I think this is going to be another Gore versus Bush from 2000, where they're going to have a recount, or if Trump loses, he's definitely going to file another lawsuit. He's going to force a recount. It's going to be like insane.
Hopefully he does lose, because I mean, it's obvious at this point that the way he's handled the pandemic is by far the worst out of any country in the world. We're 5% of the population, but we have 25% of the cases. And I don't want to hear this, we've done more testing than everyone else foolishness, because that has nothing to do with it. It's not, you're not going to automatically get more people positive if you do more testing. That doesn't even make any sense.
Right.
We just have more people that have it, because there are a bunch of people that have not tested that have it. So it doesn't even make any sense. Like, the guy just totally mismanaged the situation. If the greatest thing that's happened to me about the NBA bubble, and obviously I love basketball, which a lot of us do, and it's given us something to watch and have a pastime and kind of relax. But to me, the most important thing about the bubble is it shows that if you test consistently, wear a mask, and you control the population, or sorry, if you had did some quarantining prior to, if we did quarantine in the beginning, everyone's wearing a mask, and we did mass testing earlier, and we did contract tracing, and we knew who had it, and we controlled, the people coming in, we would be in a better situation now. If you look at all the countries across the world, everyone's doing well. I mean, people have sports with people in the crowd. We are one of the few countries that people don't even want to allow Americans in their country. I mean, it's preposterous. Yeah. We're the country that people used to look up to, and now they don't even want to allow us in. I have friends that play overseas, can't even get into their country to go play professionally right now because they don't want to allow Americans in, because we are the super spreaders. It's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
And it started at the top. And if he thinks it didn't start with him, he's tricking himself. And anybody who is a follower or supporter of him, who thinks that he's not the reason that we're in the situation we're in now, you're not being objective and you're not following the facts.
Yeah.
Because the science has told us this whole time. Fauci tried to tell us, Lil Ant, as I like to call him, tried to tell us multiple times what to do. If we had just listened to Lil Ant, we'd be in a better situation now. But we listened to this guy who said, spray bottles down your throat and send ultraviolet lights inside your body. Like, what is this? Is this a joke?
No, he's dead serious. And the sad thing is that he has constituents who were listening or will listen. They probably ended up sick in the hospital, almost dying.
I bet somebody tried that.
But you never listen to politicians when it comes to science. Listen to the scientists.
That's not their job. That's not what they do. Exactly.
Tell you, they know what they're talking about. And that was an excellent point. I think I saw a diagram the other day of just like the world, and they were showing each country that the United States is not allowed to fly into. And I think the only country we can go to right now is Mexico. It's like
it was 3 at one point. It was Tanzania, Turkey, and Mexico. I was like, what? We can only go 3 places?
They don't want us.
Oh my God. Well, let's try to move on before we get a headache. So the Cubs and the Cardinals, man, they had a series had to be postponed due to positive COVID-19 tests. I think this is the 3rd series I'm aware of. I know the Marlins had to postpone because they had like something crazy, like 13 people test positive. In total, 9 Cardinals players have been tested positive for COVID. And one of the biggest issues is, we got to talk about this. The NBA, they've done a great job with a lot of things. Now, they spent a lot of money. And the major leagues has kind of done the opposite. They didn't form a bubble. They had an opportunity to have 4 bubbles. They chose not to do that. And it's really the players, to be honest, that didn't want to do it. But the commissioner chose to do testing at a neutral site. They want to send all their tests to Utah because they don't want the results to get out. So I guess it's up to the players if they want to say their name specifically if they got positive tested for COVID-19. So that for anonymity, they send it to Utah. So when you send the test to Utah and send it back, they have a 2-day lag time of finding out if they have COVID-19 or not. Well, during this time, they're playing games and they're around other people. So every single time that the test goes out and it comes back 2 days later and they find out that one person had it, you know what happened? They gave it to like 5 or 6 other people. So it doesn't even make any sense. They're Major League Baseball. Like, you have money. You're playing a sport where you're going to be sitting in the dugout in the clubhouse with your peers who are going back to their families because you don't have a bubble. So they should be able to get that test back instantaneously. If the NBA is getting their test results back that day or the following day, it makes no sense for Major League Baseball not to be able to get their test back that day or the following day. This sending it out to Utah foolishness and getting it back 2 days later, look where it's gotten them. I'm actually surprised they've still continued to play. And I think it might get to a point where they end up having to cancel the season, because when you keep having situations where 9 people have it, 13 people have it, I mean, now you got to go 2 weeks of quarantine and before you can even play a game. So what happens to these games? Are they going to be able to make these games up? They're playing something crazy like 67 games in 60 days. Yeah. So if you miss 2 weeks, you probably played 11 games in that 14-day period. How are you going to make those 11 games up? Are you going to play 5 double headers? So, I mean, and now you're wearing the guys out. Now you have a chance to get guys hurt and injured. So, I mean, they've just completely mismanaged this from up top again. And everything starts with your leadership. If your leadership doesn't put in place a good plan, then this is what ends up happening. You end up with bad results.
Right.
And this is just another example of it.
Yeah, we see it now. Like, these leagues who don't have bubbles, Major League Baseball, we talked about the NFL, it's going to be very hard for them to complete a season. Or they're just going to take the mindset of, well, I guess we're just going to have to postpone games if people test positive for them to quarantine, and then just let them keep playing and restart the season. So it's very interesting. These 9 Cardinals players, I think at one point they had 13 people
13
test positive within their whole staff, between players and staff members for the Cardinals. And then just the numbers, like so far they have a total of 71 positive tests since they have started their season, which is about 0.13%, which is a low percentage out of the number. I think it's around 53,000 people within Major League Baseball, whether they're players or other like executives who have been tested. But we know this is going to be an ongoing thing unless you can actually put people in the same environment where they live together, they cohabitate, and they just play that sport. You're going to keep having this same issue because players are going to be able to go home to other family members. They're going to be able to go out if they want to. They're going to have the freedoms and the luxuries that normal people do who aren't playing sports. And it's just going to really put other players, coaches, umpires, people in general. They don't have fans in the stands, but it's going to put people at risk. So unless you can really combat it, I can say the NBA, they put forth the money.
They've done the best job by far.
They were serious about it. They're already trying to plan for next season, pushing the 2021 season back a bit. I think they said something to the effect that they plan on having multiple bubbles, like regional bubbles, like 3 maybe.
No, I think it's going to be more difficult with all the teams. I am interested to see how they pull it off.
And it's going to be excellent if they can pull it off, but they understand that they know they're going to need multiple bubbles where these teams are just going to have to relocate and play. Hopefully it's within a close proximity of family and friends, so you're not so far away for an 82-game season, but I think the season's going to be cut short.
It's going to have to be shorter.
And you have the Olympics next year. I'm interested to see how the Olympics is going to handle it since it got rescheduled from this year to 2021. So it's a lot of parameters. Even heard today that I believe either the Big 10 or the Big 12, like they had an emergency meeting, like
Big 10.
They're not going to have football. They're planning on, they're trying to decide if they're going to have football this season or postpone it to sometime in the spring.
The MAC also canceled all their fall sports.
Yes. So now you see the Power 5 actually having to rethink this, because we've been talking about it the whole time. Like, how is college football or fall sports for college sports going to handle this pandemic and have sports? You just can't do it. And I believe I believe the money's there. I mean, think about how much money the NCAA makes every year. It's there, but it's just too many athletes. And I just think you just can't cover it because of students that may come on campus and then just student athletes and trying to separate them. That's just entirely too hard. And most programs, right, they don't have the budget. Yeah. So I think a lot of these fall sports and collegiate athletics will be postponed to the spring, and we'll just have to see what we get. Right now, I'm excited. We have NBA basketball. We have a little bit of baseball. I think we have some hockey. I even see golf. You know, I watch golf from time to time.
I watched it today. They had
today. Right. People are watching sports that they may not normally watch because there's nothing on. And I think it's causing us to have or find different interests so we can keep up with the times that are going on during this pandemic. So that's going to be interesting. And then today, it was a brawl between the Oakland A's and the Houston Astros. And that's a whole nother topic with the Houston Astros and that whole signal cheating scandal. But that's going to be like critical to see if they test positive for COVID, because that's one thing in baseball you see is always brawls on the field. Something breaks out, someone gets hit with a pitch, whatever happens, then the dugout's just clear and a brawl breaks out. So we'll see if anybody tests positive from those two teams after that brawl today.
Well, a couple things on what you just touched on. So one of the biggest things for me is 71 people have tested positive in baseball, but that's the actual players and staff. We don't know anything about their families,
right,
or anyone else they've come in contact with. So, you know, that number could be drastically bigger,
right,
because of baseball, which I would assume it is. And I don't know if this includes umpires, staffers or not. I'm assuming that this is just people affiliated with each team. I do not know the answer to that, though. This could be actually everyone who is encompass everything and everyone that's involved with the games. I don't know the answer to that, but the way I'm understanding it is it's players and, like, you know, coaches, administration. So the number could be bigger, and I would assume that it is bigger. With the Astros, I think that's going to be an ongoing issue because so many people are upset that they cheated and won a championship, even though, from my understanding, it's the culture of baseball to cheat. And it's something that's been going on for years. And we obviously know the steroid cases that we've had. And there are a lot of other things that go on in baseball. But I guess I don't know if it's the fact that they got caught or if it's the fact that they had some kind of mechanism, because I think they all steal signs, but they're okay with that. But they want to be able to communicate them. But I think the fact that they had some kind of mechanism that was like computerized, I think upset some people. So they're going to have people throwing balls at them, and, you know, they're going to have different types of fights for a couple of years, I think. Because people feel like they could have won a championship and you took some money out their pocket and you unfairly, you know, won a championship and you walked around and poked your chest out. And they kind of talked a little bit of junk about winning the championship too. So it'll be interesting. But the NBA, like you said, to me, has handled it the best. College sports are going to be hard because it's just so many people. Mm-hmm. And you got so many different situations, so many moving parts. I don't know how you can do it. But I know they want to play football. I think we definitely will not have bowl games. I don't think we'll have a bowl series championship. I just don't think it's possible. And then each individual league is going to have to make a decision. I think the SEC is going to hold up and be last. As we know, they make the most money. And they're not trying to give that money up unless they absolutely have to. I actually know someone who's going to University of Alabama. And from what I'm told, I don't know the facts, but from what I'm told, every single student has to test on campus at University of Alabama before they're allowed to go in the classroom, which I think is good that they're doing that.
Right.
And that they're cutting down on the clubs, how many people can be in certain places. And I think all that, I could be naive, but I think all that's being done because they want to make sure their football players are okay.
Right. Because we know that's a party school. Alabama,
no question.
They don't go to school on Fridays before the game. They partying from Friday morning until after the game Saturday. Probably Sunday,
I would think
too.
That's most SEC schools, though.
Yeah. So that's huge for the culture. Think about it, if you're on that campus and you may not even be able to go to a game and you just sit there in your room and watch it. I mean, It's Alabama. Come on. So I just don't see how you can do it. I'll tell you this, LeBron James, I mean, you hate on my LeBron James Lakers sometimes, but he's said today, like it's weird playing in an arena with no fans. Like he's saying it's an adjustment for him. And not to say that's the reason for the Lakers' struggles right now. We're going to get to that in a minute. But that can play with your psyche. You used to those fans in the crowd pumping you up. We said watching the game, it seems realistic because you really hear fans. It's like a playoff atmosphere in the gym. And you're like,
they've done a great job with that. I like the virtual people sitting in the stands, the noise. From what I understand, the home team, they use whatever their crowd noise is and their stuff that goes to timeouts or when they make a shot. So that's kind of like how they get the feel of being a home team. It's pretty cool. I think they've done a good job with that.
No, that's awesome because watching the game, you're like, dang, this sounds like a real legit game. Yep. But it's different than playing out there. So who knows how that even feels or looks. But it's an adjustment. It's just a new way of living or just playing sports that we have to adjust to or athletes have to. And we just going to have to continue to watch it to see how it plays out. But yeah, this is going to be interesting to see if Major League Baseball can sustain and if they can keep it going because postponing series and games, then you just need to cut half the season and just see if you could just have like a playoff or playoff with just teams. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're going to have to readjust, I think, at some point.
But the problem is the players didn't want to cut the games because I'm assuming it has something like they got to play, they get
certain
paid
games to get paid.
Yeah,
right.
So it's the players who have really caused the most issues, but instead of the commissioners kind of like, this is what we're going to do, this is why we're going to do it, this is the best plan, they kind of allow the players to make decisions who, again, we just talked about this earlier. You made a great point. You got to let the scientists and the doctors make the decisions in this situation. Like they're players. They have no idea what's best for them. They just want to play and make the most money possible. That's all they care about. So if you're going to allow them to make a decision, that's why you're in the situation you're in. But let's move into I'm glad you brought up the fakers so we can discuss how, who's played well in the bubble, who has not played well. And surprisingly, the two best teams who are the number one seeds have really struggled. Now, the Lakers actually were playing good going into the bubble. The Bucks have been struggling going into the bubble, and then they struggled in the bubble as well. So it's kind of not as much a surprise for them. But I do think that the Lakers really miss Avery Bradley, who's not only a veteran, but he's a great defender. He also can make shots. Yeah. And then I think Rondo's towards the tail end of his career, but he's a very smart player, and he's a true point guard. So now with LeBron trying to play full-time point and Caruso as the backup, you really don't have a point guard. And you have no perimeter defenders because Caldwell Pope, Dion Waiters, who wants to come in and score. You don't have any perimeter defenders. Anthony Davis wants to be a perimeter player on the offensive end. I think he'll change and he'll do more getting closer to the rim as the playoffs come. But if you don't have perimeter defenders, it makes the game tough. What do you think about the fakers, as I like to call them, and how they played so far? And then also the Bucks as well.
First of all, it's the Lake Show. That side right there behind me. Lake Show right there. I'm always representing all day, every day. And it's just been hard to watch. I'll be honest with you.
When Frank Vogel says they're a work in progress at the number one seed, I mean, I'm confused. I've never heard of a number one seed being a work in progress.
Well, the Lakers were rolling. I mean, we had that big win against the Clippers, and then we were on this roll. But a lock for the number one seed right before the pandemic hit, and then you take this 4-month break, restart of the season. And they've lost some players. Avery Bradley, he was tremendous. He was on a roll before the pandemic. And I really didn't understand how critical he was until now we see we don't have him and how critical he really is for this team. And then Rondo going down with the thumb injury. He's back in the bubble, I heard. Hopefully they'll have him sometime soon once the playoffs start, maybe around the second round. But that's if the Lakers make it.
I was about to say, that's not a guarantee right now.
It's not, but you're right. Caruso, he was better playing a little bit off guard or combo where he could handle the ball if he was in there with the likes of Rondo and Kuz, where he had the freedom to just run and play, catch some oops. And then if he needed to handle the ball and dish it, he could. Now he has point guard responsibilities and having to play defense. He's not. Yeah. So, and our three-point shooting, it's not there. We picked up the likes of, J.R. Smith. We picked up Waiters, and it's just not working. So without the consistent 3-point shooting, I mean, they're just doubling down on Anthony Davis, and he's trying to kick it out, but we don't have shots falling down right now. So it is work in progress. I hope they can figure it out because the playoffs start really soon in about a week. You don't. And with the Bucks, I mean, we said it, like Giannis can only do so much. He's going to need some surrounding pieces, and it's going to be critical. If they can't make it to the championship this season, he is going to be a free agent, and I can see him going elsewhere. So they got to lock something in and make a good run, because you got a lot of teams right now in the bubble popping up. And you're right, an 8 seed at this point, how things are going, they could knock a number 1 seed out.
No question. No question. And I don't know if you know, but the Pelicans and the Kings have officially been eliminated from playoff contention mathematically. So now you're down to the Grizzlies, Portland. I feel like there's one more team, Phoenix. I guess. Yeah, Phoenix they're undefeated. I think this is the first time that they've won 5 straight games since something crazy like 2014.
Right.
Monty Williams deserves a ton of credit.
He does.
They have good young talent, but he's cultivated them, has them playing some defense. Booker, who's always been a terrific scorer, has now also become a playmaker as well, and we know he can make tough shots. I still don't know what they will do if they get to the playoffs. I don't think they're ready for that yet, but it'd be exciting to watch. I don't think the Lakers want to see Portland, because even though they have deficiencies, they have guys who've won in the playoffs. They made it to the Western Conference Finals. Damian Lillard has the utmost confidence in himself, and who's going to guard him? I don't know who you put on Damian Lillard right now, because they just don't have a perimeter defender. And if you let's say you put LeBron on him, now he's being screened far away from the rim. He's chasing him around. I don't think that's good for LeBron right now at this point in his career. And then who's going to guard McCollum? Because don't think McCollum can't guard for 32. Now he's a bad boy, and they actually have some size and some athleticism to match up with the Lakers.
Yeah, they do.
And then we can't talk about the bubble without talking about TJ Warren. He is on a tear. He is about to get paid. I think he's already making 10 or 12
million. He's making good money already, but he's about to get paid.
But I mean, this dude is scoring. He's only 26 years old, and he's scoring, or 27, I think, and he's scoring 30 points a game. I don't care if it's a new bubble and people say that the guys are. I don't care what. If you're scoring 30 points a game against the best players in the country, you're pretty good. What have you seen out of TJ Warren, and what do you think?
Well, shoot, I saw it yesterday. I mean, he hit the go-ahead 3 that just won the game for the Pacers against the Lakers yesterday.
And he had LeBron guarding him, and they ran a ball screen with Anthony Davis coming up, and he made that shot. That's a big-time shot. Oh,
he's nasty. He can score from anywhere. He was even hitting runners, and, he's a big guy, big guard. Mm-hmm. He's not intimidated by anything. So really impressed to see his play. I was like, he's the second coming to MJ right now, how he's been hooping in this bubble.
Playing well.
Devin Booker's been hooping. I mean, he hit a game winner a couple of games ago, and you said Dame Leonard dropped 51 today. So
he did.
It's players really stepping up in the Western Conference. I know it's been talks about the East being just as competitive as the West, but
the Raptors have played well.
Oh, no. The Raptors have played phenomenally. They just lost their first game, I believe, yesterday by 22, and people were shocked by that.
Came back and won today, though.
Right. Well. But Boston they are consistent. Well, they have. It's going to be a competitive playoffs, I think, this NBA season. And it's just going to be interesting because, like you said, it's not a surety that the Bucks are going to come out, and it's not a surety that the Lakers or the Clippers. I think any given night.
Play well, though. Yeah, Montrezl hasn't even got back, so
he hasn't. He hasn't. But then you got to get reacclimated. That's just your team right now. And then with all the headaches, the outside distractions they've had, you hope Paul George and Kawhi Leonard can get the team together. They got a veteran coach in Doc Rivers, but like you said, you just don't know how things may go. And I think when these teams like Portland right now hitting that hot streak, if they come and get the A seed or whoever pulls up and has that 7 seed playing the 2, you just don't know how seeding's going.
Dallas is the 7 seed. They're locked in. They're good too. So,
and they're very good. It was and it was a close game between the Clippers and Dallas the other day. And they got some young heat on the Mavs, and they go out there and hoop. They got Luka.
Luka Doncic is as good.
Luka is amazing, and
anyone who thinks that Trae Young Luka trade wasn't an awful trade, well, watch the bubble, and tell me if you think Trae Young can do what Luka's doing.
I like Trae though. I like Trae. We need some pieces around him.
Can Trae get 34, 19, and 16? 34, 19, and 16. Can Trae do that?
He may not get the rebounds. He get the assists. He get the assists. But Luka is amazing. He's 6'7", doing what he's doing, and it's just amazing to see the type of season he had. I think this being his second season in the league. So
and he's younger than Trae.
He is, and they were just saying like he's up for most improved player. And he was like, he doesn't want to get that. He wanted to pass that off to the Charlotte guard out of Kansas, who came out of Kansas, who hooped this year too, but they're just not in the bubble. He's a very humble kid, learning, and just loves to play the game. Every time you see him play, he just looks like he has fun. And sometimes it looks so slow motion, but that kid can.
He's just smooth and under control, though.
Under control, handles the ball. He's very smart, savvy, how he controls the ball and controls his team at such a young age, and really just in his second year in the league. So I'm really impressed to see what Dallas does in the playoffs as well. I think it's going to be some great playoff basketball on both sides.
I agree. I think the Western Conference playoff picture is going to be more exciting to watch, even though there are some teams that are playing good on the East, but I don't think it'll be any good till Eastern Conference Finals. I think we could have a couple blowouts early. Brooklyn, what can they do against the Raptors? I think that'll be a sweep. Milwaukee, who's the AC? I don't even know who the AC in the East is.
I think right now Orlando has the AC.
Yeah, I mean, they can win a game maybe if they play great, but But in the West, to be literally anything can happen in the West.
Every series is going to be good. And
then will that wear down the Western Conference team so that when they get to the finals, they're more beat down mentally and physically to go against the Eastern Conference team who maybe have coasted through and only had one good series to play? So the whole finals is going to be interesting. Plus, we have nothing else to watch. So we're all going to be locked in anyway.
We don't. But just to say for the East, I think in those first couple of rounds, it may be easy. But once you get into that second round, I mean, you got the likes of the Pacers. We said the Raptors.
That's a good team too.
Of course, the Bucks. It's going to be some competition where, it's going to be teams going at each other. And it's going to be interesting to see who can come out, because I'm not sure on the Bucks yet. But I like Giannis. I'm rooting for him. So Milwaukee can keep him.
He just can't make the plays down the stretch. He turns the ball over too much. He's not comfortable in his floaters or his mid-range jumper. He either wants to shoot a three by itself or he wants to get all the way to the rim and do the Euro step. Until he can make those in between, 6 to 12 footers, it's just going to be hard for him. And then he fouls too much sometimes. And then Chris Middleton, wants to shoot all jumpers. So, I mean, they got a lot of issues, even though they're really good and they played well the majority of the season. Down the stretch in meaningful games, they haven't showed that they know how to win. Last year or this year.
Yeah.
So can Giannis, and I love him. Actually, he's one of my favorite players because I kind of love his approach. I don't want to work out with these guys. I don't want to be their buddies. I love Milwaukee. It's a small market team, but they embrace me. I want to stay here. And hopefully he sticks to that because, like you said earlier, if they don't win, does he go to a big market team? Because, people will be pulling at him. It'll be interesting. Then I don't know if you heard Draymond Green got fined $50,000 for saying that Booker needs to leave and go to a better team. They call that tampering. So be careful when you go and become a broadcaster. Booker be good anywhere though. I don't care.
He would. I need him to come to the Lakers. I want him. That could be our three-piece. That I want him. Come to the Lakers, Devin Booker. If
nobody
you ever
wants to
listen
play
to this
with
podcast, we want you.
It's one team in LA right now. LA our way, the Clippers. It's one team in LA right now. Once Brick leaves, then they'll be back to the Lake Show. I'll be wearing Don in purple and gold. But until he leaves, it's LA our way.
Just know we got the number one seed, and we won it the first time since 2010. We got the number one seed on the line.
Let's see what happens in the playoffs.
And this is our Kobe year, so we're going to represent. We're going to rep. Oh, man. But, Daryl, we had some great topics, just chopping it up like we do every episode. Last two episodes, we've had guests, some good interviews, but we just getting back to our norm with just the two of us. So this has been a good one. And as we continue to do, just like every episode, we want to continue to shout out Black businesses. And this week, the Black business we're going to shout out is an owner by the name of Michael Phillips Jr. He has a retail store in Raleigh, North Carolina, where he sells kicks, sneakers. He sells resale kicks, new kicks, and he also sells custom-made kicks. The name of his store is Sir Castle Tees, and he's done an amazing job. I call him a young prodigy. I played with his sister, Shatoria Phillips, at Georgia Tech, and ever since she used to talk about little Mikey, he's been inspiring, had an opportunity to work for Nike, but he decided to take a different route and have his own brand and be an entrepreneur and open his own store, and it's been working out. So go check out Michael Phillips Jr. and see what he's selling in his store. And you can go follow him either on his website. You can go check him out at sircastletees.com. That's spelled CASTLETEES. Or you can go to his IG handle, which is at Sir Castle Tees. This time the Tees has 3 E's on it. And he also has his own kennel. He's breeding dogs. I think Pitt's up there. So go check him out. And that's at Sir Castle Kennels. So we're going to support a Black business owner, especially a young artist like Mikey. And we're going to say, go check him out and go support him.
I love it. I've seen some of the work that he's done. And this is probably 5-6 years ago. It was unbelievable then. And he's continued to grow and just get better. Unbelievably talented, artistic, eclectic, has a vision, has kind of, a confidence about itself. Like you said, when you have an opportunity to go with Nike and you decide to bet on yourself,
he did.
Pretty impressive for a young kid. So please go out and support. He does dope work. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised when you check him out.
Yeah, that's a good one. So great one again, DLab. We talked about some cool issues this week. We're going to keep the trend going. This is episode 7. And we just go continue it next week. So stay tuned. This was a good one. Thanks to all the listeners. Please subscribe. Go to our platform. We need some followers. We've had some great shows. So check us out, listen, and even tell us your thoughts. Give us some feedback. We always trying to get better and improve. But this is episode 7. So stay tuned for the next one.